Bye, high five.
Saludos and salutations, Broncos country, and I'd like to welcome in everyone to the all-new episode of Broncos Talk. I'm your host, Adan Diaz, and joining me, as always, to my right is my good friend, Johnny Baki. Johnny, how are you doing today, my friend?
Whew, buddy, I just ate a huge T-bone steak for dinner. I am lethargic, I am tired, and I feel good.
All right, and good joining us today is, of course, our other co-host, RichirichEh. Richie, how are you doing today, my friend?
Not bad, bud. How are you?
I'm doing good. Guys, just want to remind you that we are a fan-led Broncos-based podcast, filling you in on everything Broncos and NFL news related, but more importantly, Broncos news. We go live every single Tuesday at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. So make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, comment, and share. The more interaction we get on the pod, that's right, oh yeah. The more interaction we get on the pods, the more eyes they get in front of it. If that wasn't enough incentive, guys, we have some very exciting news coming up for the future for anything that's MHRT. In case you haven't heard, which you probably haven't, but season 2 is coming up of Mile High Roundtable. I couldn't get the rim shot down, but guys, we have a lot of exciting stuff heading your way for the very start of the season. So make sure you're a part of it. Make sure you're there when it happens. It's just subscribe, hit that thumbs up on Twitter, share, YouTube, Facebook, turn on notifications and share so that you can know when we go live, when you can be the first ones to see everything new, just like we will. And when we post any of our amazing content on any of our pages, and so the other Broncos out there, fans out there in Broncos country can know that we are here.
Oh, and I'm going to tell y'all right now, like a few of us, have been putting in like hours and hours and hours of work this last week getting some of these new updates ready for for the new season of MHRT. We've put in tons of work, tons of time, tons of a lot of creative juices. We have been, and like I'll tell you right now, I probably in the last 2 days put in about 18 hours of design work and prep work, getting things ready for these updates. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be cool. So definitely stay tuned and tell your friends.
Agreed. Now, guys, like I said at the very intro, you don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be exciting. So make sure you're subscribed, notifications on, so that you don't miss a thing. Anyways, guys, the thing about today's show is we were supposed to talk about the joint practice going on, but before we went live on the air, I believe the Broncos are still mid-flight or they're barely landing in Minnesota. So I don't think they haven't actually practiced yet. Unfortunately, I think the joint practice starts tomorrow. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we can still talk about what we can expect to see in the very first joint practice for our beloved Denver Broncos.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, we've seen so much in training camp. I mean, right now, man, I don't think I say this almost every year, but I think this year I honestly mean it. If that makes sense. I don't think I've been this excited to see a Broncos roster, going into a season in years, many years. And, I think we have, I think George Payton, I'm going to give him all the credit right here. Just claps and well done, sir. He's come in, he's changed the culture. He's changed the way that they think, the way that they operate. And I think that it's between that and the roster that he has built, this team is ready to make a gigantic cannonball splash in the middle of the AFC, the AFC West, the NFL as a whole.
Right. And you know what? One thing that I was actually thinking about on my drive home was that this is kind of a homecoming for George Payton. I mean, he's coming back to Minnesota, a place he spent a lot of years. And, he's more than likely going to be a little homestruck or what's the word? Homestruck or homesick or what have you?
I don't know. I just know. Does anybody else actually think that this is a coincidence?
No.
I'm starting to think that it isn't, Johnny. That's why I actually brought it up, because I'm like,
guys, look on the bright side though. Every single Broncos player and coach is going to know exactly where to go to eat.
You got a point. You got a point, Rich. I mean, I've been up in Minneapolis. I have family up there, and I spent a lot of time up there. And there's this place. It's about 2 blocks from the Viking stadium. I can't remember the name of the stadium. About two blocks away, it's this little Irish corner pub. You would love it, Rich. Just this little corner pub, dude. And they had some of the best beer cheese. And I'm German, so that's hard to say. They had some of the best beer cheese dip I have ever eaten in my life. It was like I salivate right now thinking about it, and I'm full after that T-bone. So it was that good, man. Like there's some good eating around that area.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And before we continue, guys, let's say hi to some of our fans in the room. Dave Glassman says, good evening, MHRT family.
Dave
Broncos
Glassman.
Country, who joined us live last Thursday, filling in for Glenn and Marcus. So good to see you, my friend. The boss Mundungus says, what up, Dave? Hello, everybody.
The boss is in the house.
EJ saying, what's up, Broncos Country? Hello to you,
Hey,
EJ. The boss's son, Landon Clark, saying hello. And who else do we have in here? I saw
WizKid.
Tony Williams saying, mile high five from Jersey. Just got back from Canton. The week was amazing. Guys.
Dude, Tony. Oh, brother. I haven't talked to you on Twitter for about a week, bro. But the fact that you were there, man, I'm so freaking jealous, bro. I am so jealous.
Too, right?
Man, let me tell you, when Peyton Manning got up there for his enshrinement and Steve Atwater and John Lynch, and I was at a restaurant eating with my parents, I literally got up and started clapping because, I mean, it was a pleasure and an honor to see 3 Broncos players go into the Hall of Fame.
What?
It was amazing.
How cool is that, man? Like, and Steve, I mean, they all gave great speeches. Peyton Manning's speech is just, he's Peyton Manning. He's so magnetic. And people just gravitate towards his personality. I mean, you just look at his commercials. Yeah. I mean, I swear, like I want to go change my insurance every time I see one of his commercials.
I want to try an Omaha steak.
I did tonight. It was delicious.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
But I'm just saying, his speech was great. But I'm sorry, I think my favorite of the weekend was Steve Atwater's. Yeah. I mean, the fact that, when he got up there and he asked each and every member of his team that was in attendance that he could think of to stand up so that he could thank them for this honor, this accomplishment. He literally gave them the credit. And I'm like, dude, don't sell yourself short. You were one of the greatest of all time. You were an animal. You were. Nobody has ever hit like Steve Atwater, and nobody else ever will. He is one of a kind, and yet here he is, so humble. We've heard it so many times before that he's one of the nicest guys on earth, but so humble. He's sitting here in the middle of his honor, the moment that is about him, giving the credit to others, and I was so impressed by that, and he literally called out like, gosh, almost 30 people. Yeah. Almost 30 players. He's like, you, Neil Smith and Dennis Smith, and just on and on, man. It was such a polarizing moment. It was so cool. John Lynch's speech was great too. John Lynch was a great member of this team. I mean, obviously he spent most of his time elsewhere, but I mean, the time he was here, it was great. So.
One thing I will agree that Peyton Manning said in his speech was basically the time given to every single Hall of Famer to try to sum up their entire NFL career in the time allotted is never enough.
No, I mean,
that couldn't be more true.
I don't know about you guys. I just once want to see one of them walk up and be like, world peace, out. And then walk off. Just do the Miss America thing. World peace. And then just hold up their jacket and walk away.
Yeah. No, what I would love to see is someone go up and say, I'd like to thank my mom and dad. Everyone have yourself a great night. Thank you.
Yeah, just like that. Just like that.
No, like that's it. Like that is absolutely it. And be just like everyone else, you already know you did well.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to sit there and hear Peyton Manning say it all started in 1998 because I would have literally told that restaurant, "Hey, keep the beer coming because I'm going to be here a while." It was that great.
It was incredible. It was 3 members. Is that it? Johnny said he's been working no joke for 18 hours on MHRT stuff. Is that in 2 days, boss? In the last 2 days. That's a lot of time in a 2-day period. Okay.
You know how you guys at home can picture it. If you've ever seen the very first Iron Man, Tony Stark, like just spending. That's what I pictured when I heard Johnny and the boss and all the head guys working on a new season coming up. I mean, it's just going to be fantastic, and the finished product is already
ready to
amazing.
blow minds. We're it's going to stay in so many ways the same, but there's just going to be so much updated. It's going to look slick. It's going to feel slick. You guys just get excited. Get excited, Broncos country. Like
so the boss's comment here, wouldn't this be the greatest enshrinement speech for Lynch? It would be, I'm just here so you don't get fined, boss. Now someone throw me some Skittles.
That I would want him to take a bite of potato chip. I would I'd like them to have like a jar of Tostitos cheese dip on the podium, and him walk up there with it, with a bag of Tostitos. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Catches his Skittles, grabs a chip, dips it, crunches, and walks out. Like just done. Hashtag beast mode.
Yeah, but we got our first.
He would solve that because he would have hashtag beast mode on the back of his shirt, so it just saves him that whole speech of going into beast mode. He would just walk off and beast mode would be on the back.
No, he would have had this pre-planned, and he's got beast mode bedazzled on the back of his gold jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh God!
We got our first question of the night, guys. It's from EJ. He says, "Who are the next Broncos that we think will be elected to the Hall of Fame?"
Now, are we saying who's going to be elected or who we think deserves it? Can we do both?
I think either one is a fair shot. I believe.
All right. Well, you guys go first.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this before I highlighted it, to be honest with you, and I can't. I'm trying to think who would fit into. Because they have to be 5 years. Is that correct? 4. Okay, 4. So I'm trying to think who retired 4 years ago.
No. Sorry. It is 5 years to go in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. I thought you meant as a Bronco. My bad.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Yeah. And dang it. The boss took my answer. DeMarcus
Always getting you with them.
DeMarcus Ware. That's what I was about to say. It doesn't have to be a full, Bronco from the start of their career to the finish. DeMarcus Ware, I believe it would be my pick because, the man was just fantastic going into that 2015 season. He was a great pickup by John Elway in free agency in 2014. Yeah, 2014. Mm-hmm. So DeMarcus Ware is my selection for the Hall of Fame next year.
All right. What about you, Rich?
I would say, did Talib retire a Bronco?
No.
2 years ago, he was still on the Miami Dolphins list. He was injured, but he didn't actually suit up for the Dolphins.
So he never fully retired. Okay, so
he never signed a one-day contract with Denver.
Yeah, he hasn't officially retired like with a team.
And honestly, the thing is, when you go in the Hall of Fame, though, you don't go in the Hall of Fame with a team. You just go in the Hall of Fame, like it's you yourself. So
I think Ware is probably the next one that gets in, just because I think he's basically. I don't say Sharpied in, but he's, let's just say someone's got some explaining to do if he's not in on that first vote.
Yeah. And and not to cut you off, Rich, just let me say, for a guy like Ware who spent all that time in Dallas and literally, it almost felt like his talent was wasted there. Then he comes to Denver and in 2 years did what he couldn't do in Dallas.
That's a nice way to put it. I'm
just being honest.
No, you're right. No, but I'm saying it's a nice way to put it only because he was like such a, like he had all the talent in the world. Mm-hmm. He had all of it. You know what I mean? But then,
I'm thinking that, but I actually agree with Tony here. I think now that there's 2 more wide receivers that have to go in. I agree. Rod Smith should definitely.
That was my answer coming up was Rod Smith.
But there's one other wide receiver that has been snubbed. and I think that they're going to need to bring him in. I think he's like number 3 or number 4 on the all-time list, and I don't believe that he's in yet. I have to look up the name.
Yeah.
But I think that wideout gets in before Rod Smith, because I think they basically have egg on their face. They've gotten 1, 2, and like 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Like Michael Irvin made it in over this other guy who is above him in most statistical categories. So I think they need to correct the last remaining wideout within that top 3 or 4. But then I would like to see Rod Smith, and then I was going to say that I actually think that I kind of agree. I think as a result of Rod Smith kind of getting that, not snub, but basically bumped back another year, I think Ware's the next guy up.
Okay. Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, it stinks because my answer as to who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame next is Rod Smith. And I've said it before when we've talked about this, but he to do what Rod Smith did. I mean, he came into the league undrafted in the same year as Michael Irvin, and almost perfectly mirrored his stats up to the year that they both retired. The fact that he is still not in there, it's sickening.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it undercuts what the NFL is more often not made of, which is undrafted and late round draft picks. Like sometimes a good majority of a lot of these NFL teams are not the top, first 2 rounds. It's the later rounds and undrafted guys that typically end up making up a good majority of a lot of these rosters a lot of the years. Now, what you end up with a lot of the times is the guys that last the longest in the league have often been drafted in the higher rounds, like rounds 1 and 2. But on any given year, a good portion of the league, if not the majority, dare I say it, is made up of those late round draft picks and undrafted guys on rosters. I mean, the Broncos have a long storied history, including Rod Smith, of having undrafted free agents becoming, if not superstars, at the very least, highly, highly productive.
Totally agreed.
EJ brings up another great one. The albino rhino himself, Carl Mecklenburg.
That would be a great pick right there.
That guy, man, he was phenomenal. It's somewhere in a box over that way. I have a Carl Mecklenburg rookie card actually that I will probably keep in plastic for a very, very, very long time.
And I got a question for you guys. Having seen some of these guys go in, like your Atwaters, like your John Lynch's, we bring up some pretty heavy hitters here in Gradishar and Mecklenburg as well. And even watching some of these other safeties get in and corners get in over the last couple of years, it does drive home a bit of a point, Johnny, that you actually made, and I agree with in our last pod, which was how the game has changed a bit. And I know I'm not as big of a fan of it, and I know that you're also not that big of a fan of the lack of hitting. I think it could be officiated a little bit differently. I think you can do heavy hits in a safer way, but when you see their highlight reels, like when you see Atwater's highlight reel, you can't help but looking at it through today's lens and saying, I literally 85% of what I just saw was a flag now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay. I'm gonna touch on it this way, all right? Because I didn't say it this last time. I'm a soldier. I mean, I spent 8 years of my life, living military life. I'm a soldier, and I have a very slightly violent nature. I love, I like violence. And not in the way that I'm willing to just walk up and knock someone's block off for the sake of knocking someone's block off. But especially when it comes to contact sports, I want to see guys get punished. Hockey, football, rugby, even things like lacrosse and stuff like that. I want to see people get hit and get hit hard, because that's for the majority of those sports. That's what the foundation they were built upon.
Right.
And, most of those are still that way. Hockey still is. I mean, it's done. They've even dumbed it down a little bit. They've dialed it back a bit in hockey, which really, I'm like, why? But rugby will never, that'll never go away. I don't
Right.
care who you are. Rugby will always be, hey, bro, you popped your shoulder out. He walks over to the bench, smashes it back into place, and gets back on the field. I mean, that's rugby.
The only thing I'm upset about in rugby is they've gotten rid of the upper body hit. Like, it's really weird. I used to, when I was playing, you could hit a guy here.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to anymore. Like, there's all sorts of rules that are weird. And I just looked at that and said, like, I should be able to hit someone center mass and just level them.
Well, center mass, I mean, it's the most natural spot to tackle someone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, now granted, does that mean, is there a difference between tackling someone and spearing them? Yes.
Well,
there's a big difference.
I don't care about spearing because, frankly, the other team deserves it. But
we're in agreement.
Yeah. But the other thing they've gotten rid of rugby is the drive to the ground. That used to be one of my tackling styles, and I'm disappointed that it's gone because, again, the other team deserves it.
So anyway, you know, you if you look at today's players and or you look at the players of yesteryear with today's lens,
right?
Everything that the things that they did back then are completely illegal now.
I agree.
I mean, so and that stinks. But you know what? We at least get to look at the history of it.
Yeah.
You know,
I wanted to touch up on this question by the boss who asked, is this like the WWE Hall of Fame and you can go in more than once? Because I wouldn't mind seeing Manning give another speech. Now, me being a bit of a wrestling entrepreneur or fanatic, aficionado, thank you. The answer is no. As far as I'm concerned, in the WWE, you can go in as a single wrestler, and if you're part of a stable, so you know, like being a part of a tag team or what have you, that's the only way you can get inducted twice. And even so, you still get a ring, but you don't get the exact same sort of recognition because one would be going in as a tag team or a stable, and then the other one would be going in as a singles competitor. And hell, you can go a tag team and a stable, which is more than two people. That can constitute you for three because there are wrestlers in the wrestling world that have actually gotten multiple rings like that. Like I believe Ric Flair is one of them, Arn Anderson, the Four Horsemen, and various others that I can't name off the top of my head. But I know that it is possible for them, but not in football.
I'm gonna bring another one up by the boss because this is basically where I'm coming from. Remember, like I said, I'm a soldier. I'm a soldier. I'm violent by nature in a lot of ways. I understand safety. Want players to be safe, but you knew what you signed up for when you decided to play football. It's the same as when people are like, you know, when soldiers go to war and people are like, oh my God, he got wounded. He knew what he was signing up for.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mother, when I was deployed in Afghanistan, she was like, you know, oh God, how can you do this? I'm like, I knew what I was doing.
Right.
You know, I knew that I was that when I signed that dotted line, I was going to go to war. I was going to get shot at and possibly, you know, wounded and or killed, which, you know, I mean, stuff happens.
See, this is where I stand on this is I understand things like a blind side or even defenseless receiver hit.
Sure.
I can get behind that, but I expect that a safety or a corner or a linebacker, if you're a receiver and you're running across the middle of the field, I want to see the safety run from the back all the way to the front, take you clean off your feet, and send you into the ground. And frankly,
Steve Atwater style.
Yeah, Atwater style, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a football game. You knew what you signed up for. It is a violent contact sport. That is totally fine. I am fine with it. And I played contact sports like that. There's nothing wrong with it. I knew exactly what I was getting into.
No, I want to see guys get hit and all of a sudden, you know, R. Kelly, I believe I can fly. They're just taking off. You know, I want that again. It's never going to happen. Right. But you know, we can dream. We can reminisce. You know, so I feel bad for these youngsters.
On the same note, do you think that the game will ever start dialing back towards that direction even slightly, or do you think that we're on a one-way train away from it?
One way away.
One way away.
Yeah.
No,
I hate it. I hate it. But you know, there's so much research and all this stuff out there now that proves that, you know, that violent contact is detrimental to their health later in life, especially concussions. And there's just no way they'll ever allow these guys to go back to it. It's again, and I'm sure that even those that are making those rules wish that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of the guys that are making these rules, the ones that are working in the rules commission, I can't remember what the actual group is called. A lot of them were players during those eras themselves, and I'm sure a lot of them look back on it and and they're looking at today and going, God, he got the tackle, but man, he didn't hit him as hard as he could have.
Yeah.
But I'm sure even they're like, God, I miss those days. But ultimately, the world today, everything today is so much safer than it was even 30 years ago when we were kids. We used to jump off of swing sets and have they had that merry-go-round at the park that you grabbed the bar and ran and got it going as fast as you can, and kids got thrown from it. I think I was 3 or 4 years old. I ended up underneath that thing with my head, and it's dragging me, and my body is doing a barrel roll in a circle around because it's literally got me by the head, dragging me. I got out, I cried for a little bit because I was like 3 or 4, and then I got back up, rubbed some dirt on it, and moved on. But those are illegal now. You can't even have those. Go back even a little bit further. My parents played with lawn darts. They were literally darts the size of a freaking football that you threw at each other in the yard. Unfortunately, the world we live in today has become one of so much more safety. And,
Agreed.
I even have a long joke. I'm not even going to go there about, warning labels and how they're the detriment of mankind. But, there's just so many warnings and everything out there today that, they'll never let us get back there again.
Right.
Your car battery has a warning label on it to saying don't drink contents.
Yes.
I'll give you one guess as to why that label is there.
Oh, because somebody did it.
I know.
No, I recently purchased a new chainsaw, and the warning label on it says, "Warning, do not attempt to stop saw with hand."
Well, at least they didn't put while it's on, so.
No, I mean, but someone tried to stop a chainsaw with their hand. Also, an iron. An iron says, "Warning, do not iron clothes while on body."
Right.
Again, because some idiot did it. So, and then they sued and they won. That's really what it comes down to. So,
right.
Anyway, moving on from that. Mike Shanahan, I agree with EJ on this one. Mike Shanahan should be in the Hall of Fame. 2 Super Bowl rings. And he can make a mean steak. I love how the subject matter of this episode is about steak. It was delicious, man. It was a big old juicy T-bone about that thick, and I had mashed potatoes and green beans with it. It was awesome.
Right. Well, you know what? I if it's okay with you guys, I kind of like to shift gears into the game coming up. But before we do that, just want to get to Tony Williams' a comment. One last comment where he says, "Too much research and too much money is at stake. The Shield is not going to let Brady get blown up the way Elway and those guys were. Johnny was the most sacked quarterback at the time of retirement. No way the league would ever allow Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, etc. risk those hits." Now, while there is some truth to your comment, Tony, on the other side, and I hate to play devil's advocate sometimes, but that's also done not just for, those quarterbacks, but for all, because in the league nowadays, guys like Patrick Mahomes and just recently Josh Allen, they're being paid a lot of money. So those organizations need to protect their star players, which is their investment. And we saw what happened, for example, to the Cowboys when Dak Prescott went down last season during a freak accident. The Cowboys, I mean, they were struggling already as it was. With Dak gone, they weren't the same team, even with Andy Dalton. So while I do understand why the league is trying to protect the players in terms of, and when we see hits in slow motion, like, a tap on the helmet, is a unnecessary roughness and whatever, I can understand, and I try to be more understanding of the situation as to why the league is kind of more not punishing per se, but just kind of more taking it more seriously when certain things like that go down. Because at the end of the day, the NFL is a business. The Broncos are a business. Every team in the NFL is a business.
And their commodity as a business are their players.
Yeah, exactly. So they have to protect their players, because if every player, just imagine what happened to the Broncos last season in terms of injury. Imagine if that happened to all the teams And in the playoffs, we get a bunch of players we've never heard of trying to compete for a Lombardi title.
Hey, they did that. They did that once. Okay, it was called The Replacements, and it starred Keanu Reeves, and it was awesome. Real quick, I want to give a couple shout outs to some of the comments that we haven't shouted out yet. Ryan Hamilton's back in the house. Haven't seen Ryan in a while. Says, "What's up, my dudes? I'm at work and trying not to get in trouble." He said MHRT is crack rock, and I'm always listening. He did bring up he brought up one down here that I really loved. Talking about the way things used to be. We would just play shirt skins in the ice and snow and get so cold and numb that it didn't hurt anymore.
I think that's how they play football where Richie lives, if I'm not mistaken.
That's because it's always that cold where Richie lives. You don't have a choice. He's up in the freaking Arctic, man. I mean, I swear, my wife is talking about coming to visit you just so she can go try to find her polar bear that she keeps trying to convince me to let her have.
Come visit, eh?
I'm north. I'm not that far north.
Well, fine. Just destroy my wife's dreams, Rich.
But we do have moose from time to time.
I love moose.
We all love moose.
I've eaten moose.
Moose tastes great.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I've eaten moose. It's delicious.
I can't say I've ever eaten a bullwinkle.
So I wanted to kind of go back towards the Viking stuff.
Yeah.
There's a few injuries that are actually fairly concerning, and I wasn't sure if you guys had dug into those.
I was actually that was gonna be my starting point, Richie. So if you're okay with it, we can kind of sidetrack because I actually have on another screen the injuries, and I wanted to share it with everybody.
What up, Mobad?
So without further ado, guys, let's look at these injuries right here. Wide receiver Dante Spencer with a knee. They still travel with the team, if I'm not mistaken, but these are the injuries as the Broncos boarded for Minnesota.
Yeah, but there's been talk actually that Ajim may not even travel with the team.
Yeah, I'm not sure. As far as I know, they're still on the team plane. I didn't hear of anything saying that nobody got left behind. Now, while they're with the team plane, that doesn't mean that they're going to play on Saturday per se. But there's still it's still something to keep an eye on. Deontay Spencer with a knee, Michael Ojemudia with a leg, Josie Jewell is still battling with that groin injury. Mac McCain, who I believe is the third or fourth string cornerback, has a hamstring. Defensive lineman Marquise Spencer with an ankle, linebacker Josh Watson with an unknown injury, Bradley Chubb, wide receiver Tim Patrick with a groin, Deion Sizer, and McTelvin and
just to interject. Chubb is fine. He got a personal day, and he's going to be joining the team later.
Okay, but those are just the names that popped up on the injury list going into the practice.
And I kind of laughed. The article I was reading earlier that listed the injuries going into today's joint practice with the Vikings. Tyree Cleveland after falling and bruising his backside is how the article laid it out. Falling and bruising his backside. I was just like, he bruised his butt, you know.
But I think the most interesting headline going into the joint practices, guys, and I don't know if you heard about it, was when Vic Fangio talked to the media and somebody asked him who the starting quarterback was going to be this Saturday, and he said Drew Lock was going to start, and Teddy Bridgewater is going to start next week against Seattle, and week 3 was kind of be up in the air. So week 3 is kind of like either the third string is going to start, or
it's going to be who's going to earn it.
Yeah, or who's going to earn the starting position, and maybe it's still too close to call or what have you, and it could be Locke starting again, and then Bridgewater doing the second quarter type of thing. Who knows? But usually, what happens in the last week of preseason, we hardly see any starters. We just get to see rookies and
I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there though. I think that's going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying usually
since we're now missing a fourth preseason game. Unfortunately, you don't want your starters to get hurt, but you also cannot sacrifice their playtime getting ready for the actual season.
Yeah.
So, generally when you had 4 games, sure, it was just fine to forego your starters. Usually you can forego your starters in the final game of the preseason to keep them healthy because they've had 3 games, getting ready, getting that play time, getting real game scenarios and real pressure and some real contact. and all that. But unfortunately, without a fourth game, if you bench your starters the entirety of that third game, they're going to be losing a lot of experience time getting ready for the season, and you don't want that.
In fact, most teams that do that end up almost undoubtedly either losing their first game or limping. I mean, badly.
Like me, limping like me.
You said it, not me.
I'm crippled. So... I am not. I do not hide from it. Okay. The U.S. Army broke me. Thank you. Yes. So.
But one thing to keep in mind, guys, going into these preseason games is that it's not always going to be first starters with first starters. Drew Lock is going to get some reps with the first starters, but he's also going to get reps with the second, maybe even the third. Same thing with Bridgewater. So everybody out there watching the preseason has to keep in mind, because what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of people that go on social media and say, Drew Lock looks terrible, or this guy looks terrible, or, the offensive system. You have to be patient. Keep in mind, try to keep an eye out who's out on the field, and try to be understanding if a play doesn't work out, or if somebody throws an interception or a turnover or what have you.
And you got to look at it. You got to look at it, because inevitably injuries happen. You don't want them to, but it is even with the dumbed down violence that we've been talking about, it is still a contact sport.
Agreed.
It is still a high intensity sport. Sometimes it doesn't even take contact. Look what happened to Von Miller. He just stepped wrong. It's sports. It happens. Injuries happen. So it's important for those second and third team, players to get that experience with these quarterbacks too, because you never know when all of a sudden these guys are going to rotate in as the starter for a time, or even for the rest of the season, and have to have some familiarity with that quarterback in order to make it work.
Right.
It's important.
Agreed.
I want to bring this up. Ryan Hamilton says it makes you wonder if there will keep being an increase in games added to the football season along with the decrease in violence. Possibly. I don't want it to be, because by the end of the season, these guys are pretty well used up, man.
Yeah, but
and he did say, I will take less violence for 20 games of a season. I mean, that's your opinion, Ryan, and I respect it wholeheartedly, but I completely disagree.
But, we did learn a lesson from last year, and this is something that we keep bringing up almost every single episode, guys, and that's the fact that we all thought it was going to be a good thing that nobody had preseason practice last season, especially with the NFLPA agreeing to it. And then week 1 happened, and then we had a bunch of injuries as the weeks went along, and not just in Denver, but all around the league.
All over the NFL. But I mean, not just that, you saw so much in the way of play just, I don't care what the NFLPA says in their memo that the season looked better than ever. No, it didn't.
No.
The play looked like, for weeks, it looked like crap. And it wasn't anything like what we were expecting. It looked like college ball in some games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and while I do love a good college game, when I'm watching a college game, when I'm watching the NFL, I want to watch an NFL game. I'm not looking to watch, some Division III, slack Division III team take on Alabama, in the NFL. No, I want to see two NFL teams go head to head, the best of the best of the best. And it looked like crap. Yeah, it wasn't.
I don't think you need to say anything more than the fact that the Broncos were practicing harder, and Fangio admitted that he's now scaled it back to try and help stave off these injuries.
Well, he was also forced to by the CBA, but
there's that too. But when you looked at our first 3 games, it was really interesting. The first 3 games of the NFL season, it's rather funny. Like even the commentators are saying, it's kind of like watching preseason out there. And then one of the other guys says, well, that's because they haven't had one. And it was like, as if like it was like, ha ha ha, funny. And of course, I'm on the other side saying, funny. As a fan, I'm not laughing, right? And then on the flip side, you saw the Broncos go up against 3 pretty solid teams in the first 3 games of the season last year. And all 3 of those games, the Broncos almost won.
Yeah.
And when you saw almost,
we should have had that first game. That first game was a coaching error.
Yeah.
Right. But you later saw those same 3 teams in the back end of the season, and you knew that if we ever played them again, we'd have the floor, like they'd be mopping us, mopping the floor with us. Right. So that just kind of goes to show you the disparity between or what actually ends up happening when you have a preseason versus when you don't. You get to work out those issues. You get to work on timing, and all of those types of things get sorted. And not to mention how many of those undrafted players from all of those other teams throughout the NFL were not able to get a real legit chance because they were not able to show out in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hang on. I think I'm seeing some breaking news here. Okay. I'm just going to bring this up. Mike Kliss tweet says first round cornerback Pat Surtain II is listed as backup to Kyle Fuller. Bryce Callahan is listed as backup to Ronald Darby.
Ooh.
Interesting.
You know what? I kind of clenched my fist for a little bit because I thought you were gonna state like a surprise injury player.
No.
So that's where my mind was going. And I'm like, please don't say. When you said Patrick Surtain, I said, please don't say he got injured, so like walking out of the plane or something.
The one and only Travis Tarbox is in the house. Hello, fellas.
Travis.
Just joined the show. I'm DB for life.
Man, so are
Denver
we.
Broncos for life. Oh, absolutely, my friend. I mean, I don't have all this crap up in my house just because, for posterity. Anyway, so yeah, so I find it interesting. I mean, I kind of just going off of that tweet by Mike Kliss, I pictured, or I think we all kind of saw it coming that Pat Surtain PS2 would be back up to someone. It's at least at the beginning. But I'm kind of surprised that Bryce Callahan's backing up Darby. That's an interesting. Both of them have incredible experience, and both of them have. I mean, I'm just saying.
But then you have to realize that both of those guys have been dancing around with the injury bug. Callahan and Darby darn near alike. Maybe not so much Darby last season when he was in Washington, but
Darby was amazing last season.
Yeah, but that injury bug still follows him. So it could be a bit of a precautionary thing, not to push Callahan that much and not to push Darby that much, especially since Darby is on a pretty big 3-year contract that he signed with Denver. So while we're flourishing and building up the great man that Patrick Surtain is going to be, we need to be careful the way it's done, so we don't end up in the exact same situation that we were last year with injuries.
Travis, real quick, says he's got Bronco stuff in his house, his vehicle, even some ink on his right arm. Which, by the way, Travis, this entire arm, I have actually had a blueprint, a tattoo blueprint for a sleeve laid out for like the last 6 years. That includes like the Denver skyline, the Broncos logo, the mountains, and even on the underside of my arm, Bear Lake up in Rocky Mountain National Park. Unfortunately, money. I have kids, and so I haven't had the money for 6 years to get that tattoo. But there's that.
So you were pulling up that breaking news. So I just pulled up the depth chart here. Super interesting. Left guard, the starter is Reisner, but the backup is Moody.
Interesting.
Remember, Moody last year filled in for Glasgow on the right side, on the left.
Although unlike tackle, unlike the tackle position, guard is a much more interchangeable. I just hit the microphone. Sorry.
Yeah.
Guard is a much more interchangeable position, so you can swap from left to right a lot easier than you can be going from tackle.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I do find that interesting because I've always thought of Muti as a right guard.
Right, and then another interesting one, sticking with offensive linemen, is Calvin Anderson or Bobby Massey are listed as interchangeable, like either or. And then interestingly enough, at right tackle, the number 3 is Drew Hilmerman. Mm-hmm. So Cam Fleming isn't even listed at the right tackle position at all.
Cam Fleming, I said this the day that we signed him. It's an interesting signing. I am not looking for him to make waves. Cam Fleming is a career backup swing tackle. Okay, so he's not listed to back up, just in one position. You lose this guy, then you lose this guy. He can play either left or right. He has done it in his career. You're keeping him in reserves in case he has to jump from side to side. Right. And he will never be the starter. I'm sorry for him because I know that, that's their dream. That's what these guys want to be, is be the starter. But he's not it. He's not it. And
right. And then one other thing on the O-line, Miners is a backup to both Cushenberry and Glasgow. And more importantly, just on that note as well, for those that haven't looked at that pre-release depth chart there, is Miners has beaten out on that current release Schlottman in the guard spot as a backup.
He has.
So
he has.
I think that's something that, we as Broncos country should take note of.
And
I've always said that I didn't think Schlottman was going to make this team. I thought that Miners was going to beat him out. And it looks like, based on this, unless something major happens or anything, it looks like that's probably the likely scenario, just because Miners has that versatility.
Real quick, Mundungus asked this: is what the news that we just read by Kliss, is that just for the Vikings game? It doesn't say, boss. It honestly just says
it can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's probably just for the scrimmage.
No, this is they do this every year, right? So you release the pre-release ahead of your first preseason game after all the practices and whatnot.
And then after your first preseason game, you have to make your first cut.
And then you make your first initial, right. So what they're going to end up doing is they're going to do probably a re-release of that depth chart after those adjustments are made.
Yeah.
And they do this every year, right? So, and they need to get those kind of the pecking order, if you will, appropriately, so that they can kind of put, 1s, 2s, and 3s and kind of work with who they're going to work with. Because at some point, you would hope that one of the QBs separates themselves. And then ideally, what you'd end up with is the QB2 starting to build some of the chemistry with the 2s in the wide receiver room and whatnot. Because not ideally, but likely, you're going to end up with that QB needing to step in a game, and you'd hope at least one of those wide receivers, if not two of them, end up making the roster in terms of the second string. And then you would intermix those when that other QB has to step in to give them that continuity and end up with those connections that he can make.
I just want to make a point, because everybody's talking about it in the chat about this whole thing about tattoos.
I was going to bring up the tattoo stuff.
I always wanted to get a tattoo of like Broncos stuff or the Superman logo or even Dragon Ball Z, as the boss mentioned in chat. But I have just like, people are afraid of clowns and spiders and whatnot. I'm afraid of needles. I hate needles. And one time I went with my friend to go get a tattoo, long story short, that man damn near cried in that chair, and I just walked out. I said, nope.
Oh, brother, man up. I'll go with you.
No, so I can't.
I got like 7 of them, dude. It ain't that bad.
I can't. Bad. And ever since that day, I'm like, no.
Just a little prick.
Yeah, so unless they make them like the temporary ones where you can just stick them on your arm.
Oh, don't go temporary.
I'll do that. So just for the record, I really appreciate, like, it's really cool, like, reading up everything you guys are trying to do and everything, but who knows, maybe one day when I can't feel anything in my arm.
I'm going to bring up Mundungus's tattoo comment here. Wanting to get a tattoo as well, but it's hard to find a way to mix U.S. Army, Broncos, Harry Potter, and Dragon Ball Z. Hey, think about this, boss. You got 2 arms, 2 legs, okay? U.S. Army, Denver Broncos, Harry Potter, Dragon Ball Z. Boom.
Well,
I was just going to say Photoshop.
I guess he's trying to mix it all into one image. So you could do an autonomous Ultra Instinct Goku. And one arm holding the American flag.
We're doing this.
Wearing a Broncos jersey. And in the other hand, he has a Harry Potter wand, because I don't know anything about Harry Potter. So. And it wouldn't make no sense him riding a broomstick because he can already fly. So,
oh, Lord Almighty, that's hysterical. No, I have 7. I personally have 7 tattoos right now. As of right now, I haven't had new ink in 7 years, since before my oldest was born. And I'm getting very, very itchy. I need a new tattoo. But like I said, I have this arm planned for a Colorado sleeve. This arm is a U.S. Army sleeve. And I've got a back piece planned. I've got a chest piece planned. I love tattoos, man. So Dave says, I was in Colorado Springs and was going to get a tattoo, but it was Monday and they were closed. Still ink free. We can fix that, Dave. We can fix that real quick. You don't have to be in Colorado to get a Broncos tattoo, buddy. I promise you.
Which brings me a question for you, Richie. Do they have tattoo parlors in Canada?
What do you think where do you think I live, man?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I just feel like if you go to a Canadian tattoo parlor, the whole time they're doing zzz, they're going, ooh, sorry.
Some of
sorry.
some of the best tattoo artists are here in Toronto, in the world.
I know. I've watched Ink Master, but but just saying, like, I just picture like the stereotypical Canadian tattoo artist, and dude sitting in the chair, and he's giving him the tattoo, and ow, sorry.
No, because I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of stuff that aren't in Canada that, I've heard that some people that they don't have stuff that's in Canada, that they have to cross the border to, go to somewhere as close as maybe Detroit.
I don't think it'll be tattoos there, pal. I don't think
it'll
be
just to get it, So I was just wondering if a tattoo parlor was one of those things.
I appreciate your concern. My running water was turned on 3 days ago, so it's all good.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Do you have plumbing?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
What's it like to flush for the first time? Because I don't remember. I was like 2.
Well, I watched The Simpsons early in life, so I was always concerned if it was going to go left or right. So,
Dude, the conversations we get to have. Oh gosh,
they never make any sense.
No, they make plenty of sense.
Dave, je parle français.
Yeah, I don't. Now, don't you go speaking that hoodoo, voodoo, mumbo jumbo.
Here's a name we haven't seen in a while. KB82, Kenneth Booker. Welcome back, my
friend. Kenny, what's up, man?
All right. He asks us, who do you think will make the Pro Bowl on the defensive side of the ball? Hashtag way too early question. It is a way too early question.
It's. KB, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Ken. Wow. It's hard because this defense is so stacked. I mean, like, I'm so excited about this defense. I almost am like, the whole Broncos defensive roster could make the Pro Bowl.
And we can't say Von Miller because Von Miller has made almost every single Pro Bowl every season he's played. So I just want to put that out there before you answer, Rich. So somebody else besides Von Miller.
You took away my ability to make this easy.
Sure.
Well, I think someone like Bryce Callahan can make it, considering how close I think he was last year. But the caveat is, one, he hasn't stayed healthy in a 16-game season, let alone a 17-game season. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of it will be predicated on injuries and injury history on certain players. So I think Callahan has a legit potential to make it. Fuller will have a legitimate potential to make it. I think Surtain might be one of those snubs that we're all angry about, depending on how he plays.
He got snubbed.
Well, no, because he could play well, but then he may not have the league-wide name recognition in order to get enough votes to make it. So he might be one of those guys that if he can slowly, get his name out there and show that he is that top-tier talent, it might take him like a couple of years.
My pick is going to be that second to last name, which is Kyle Fuller. I believe Kyle Fuller, because he knows the Vic Fangio system so well.
Simmons. I was going to say Simmons.
So Kyle Fuller is probably going to be my dark horse pick. My obvious pick would probably be Justin Simmons again, just because I feel that he really deserves.
The best. He's the best safety in the league, dude, and that's not going to change.
Yeah,
and we've seen so much out of him this training camp, dude. It is not going to change. Ooh, which reminds me, I've got something we're going to do today. That's going to be fun.
And just to add to that comment, there's been a lot of analysts who have ranked Justin Simmons like 4th and 5th as one of the top safeties in the league from last season, and I'm just not in agreement with that. It's like the safeties that they named, Simmons has played better than all last season. And I'm not just saying that because my orange colored glasses are on my face. I'm saying that because
Simmons is the best in the league. I mean, like, I watch these guys, and I'm sorry, orange lens is off. Oh, ow! Don't do that. Orange lens is off. Yeah, I need these. These are important. Yeah. Orange lens is off. Simmons is the best safety in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like, not just because I'm a Broncos fan. He is the best. And I mean, until someone else comes up that's better or develops into someone better than him, he is that right now.
Agreed.
100%. He is Pro Bowl. I want to see PS2 do it though. I agree with you. Dark horse. I want to see that. That'd be just cool. It would just be so cool. Dave Glassman brings this point. Pro Bowl is still a popularity contest, and unfortunately, it's true. A lot of it's about who you know and who you schmooze.
And it's fan based, so fans are the ones that apparently make all the selections, and so We don't know how much truth there is to that statement, mind you.
Rich,
for those of you who don't know, that was based on your heaping pile of.
Hey, if you lived south instead of north, I would actually agree with you. But I believe that your toilet goes the same way Johnny and my toilet goes.
That's right.
So
that's right. Clockwise.
The water might be a little colder, but that's about it.
Is it colder when you flush and it splashes up and hits you in the butt?
That's what the toilet seat's for.
What toilet seat are you using, dude? Because I need one.
Oh,
well,
now that I've gone and made that very uncomfortable, I want to ask this question, okay? And I want you guys in the comments to bring this up because, all right. So we've done this on our shows before, in recent months, but every day at camp, right? There's been the question of the day, right? Where the players and they're coming on the field or off the field. And there's somebody standing there with I'm guessing they're standing there with like a poster board with the question written out and they read it and they give their answer.
No, it's on like an easel.
Whatever it is.
It's on an easel, like it's written out and they all walk out to it.
Either way, that we've how many weeks in a row have we done the T-Rex sized chicken versus 100 chicken sized T-Rex?
Please don't bring that up.
But this one was yesterday on day 10, right?
It was great.
And it's hysterical because it has caused such a ridiculous amount of debating between the players. I mean, Justin Simmons literally lost his mind and threw down his helmet and was leaping all over the place. He was so frustrated with his teammates over their answers to this. So I want you guys in the comments to answer too, but I'm going to ask you two. Is water wet?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's water.
Yeah, but I mean, you can say that water, but you can argue that water makes other things wet. So
yeah.
The act of being wet is being covered by the water. So is water itself wet?
One of water's properties is being wet.
Well, I don't consider something wet until it comes into contact. So
exactly,
I would say
that's what I mean. I agree with you. And Mundungus so far says no. Yeah. What about the rest of you guys in the comments? Help us out here. Is water wet?
So I have a question for you.
If
you take a glass of water and pour it into the ocean, did the ocean just get more wet?
No, it just got more water.
It just got more water.
Okay. So that does not. So that means the ocean itself is not wet.
No, the ocean itself is not wet. It's
until
water.
You jump in it. Then
you jump in it. You come out. You're wet because you are saturated by the water.
Yeah, pretty much. And maybe
that's my argument. It's the same argument that a lot of the guys were making at camp. But I mean, this question literally divided the team. Like these guys were losing their minds. So guys, keep it up in the comment section. Is water wet? Boom. Oh, come on, Dave. Play along. He says, F this question. Come on, Dave. I was hoping to have a lot more fun with this. Mundungus, you guys are going to ask this on MHRT as well.
No, I think the boss is going to stick to his chicken and T-Rex thing.
No, we are so done with the damn chicken and T-Rex.
There's a billion more people the boss has to get answers from. So
I'm just saying, I thought it was a fun question. I love these daily questions. It gives you, Whiz Kid jumping in with an answer here. No, the chemical reaction when a liquid like water touches an object makes it wet.
Boom!
Science!
To quote Aaron Pinkman from Breaking Bad. Yeah, science, B.
Thank you, Whiz Kid. Dave Glassman, though, says, of course it's wet unless it's frozen. But even then, I can rub my finger on that ice.
Hey, when it's frozen,
and it comes off wet.
It's a whole different ballgame. It's no longer water. It's
ice.
Look,
I'm just saying. Landon with the science question. That's right, Mundungus. That's my boy, he says.
Hey.
You ready?
Hey, I applaud the Nebraska schooling education system because they're doing their job.
They really know how to count their kernels. Anyway.
They know how to count their cobs, yeah.
That's right. Shucks.
I guess in retrospect, guys, who do you see coming out as the winner after Saturday's game? And who do you think is going to flourish, offense or defense? Who do you think is going to come out playing their best? These are just hypothetical questions. These are guesses. These are not.
Rich, you want to field
accurate.
first?
I think the defense is going to have flashes. But ultimately, because I think there's been more change on the defensive side of the ball, and clearly based on that injury report, we have far more defensive players injured than offensive ones. I think the offense is going to look a little bit better than the defense will.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they're going to look great. I'm just saying that they're going to look better because they're going to look more composed because it's the same offense as the year before, or at least close to. And I think that you're going to see certain plays because the Vikings would not have seen them before that will allow them to move the ball maybe a little bit better. That said, I think you're going to see certain flashes on the defense at certain points in the game where you're just going to say, oh yeah, well that's a Fangio defense. And, we're just going to see more of that. And I think ultimately come season, I think the defense will continue to show that they're the dominant force on their team.
Sure.
Yeah. I have Denver coming up as winning just for the simple fact that this is a very important game for George Payton, even though he's not actually coaching or playing himself. But
he doesn't need to be, though.
He doesn't need to be, but
he built the team.
Yeah, so him coming back to Minnesota, even though it's a preseason game and winning or losing doesn't mean anything. I think the players are going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, with inspiration and hyped up, and just come out with a win. And if I had to probably pick who I think is going to be the best player on that team, I think Javonte Williams is going to have a really big game because I have a feeling that the coaching staff wants to see just how good he can be, not just in a first string offensive line, but maybe with the second stringers. Now, I don't see him playing all game, but when he does touch the ball, I think he's going to be amazing.
All right. Real quick, before I give my answer, I want to give some mad props to our boy, whiz kid, Landon Clark here. That's right. Straight A's, and you keep it up, buddy. You're way better than me.
A, good for you.
Yeah, freaking A's. Freaking A's, man. Good job. And then my answer, honestly, I think the Broncos, but I think it's going to be a little tight, which is fine. It's a preseason game. It's when you want to see it that way. And I actually disagree with you, Rich. I think the defense is going to show up a little more because so many of the players are either repeating Fangio's system from last year or are familiar with Fangio's system from being in it previously. And the offense, I think Shermer's offense is going to be tooled up a little bit from what it was last season because now they've had more time to actually execute and had more time to practice it. But at the same time, I honestly think the defense is going to outshine the offense just a little, and ultimately I have the Broncos beating the Vikings, but by a narrow margin, which is fine again, because it's a preseason game.
My question for you is, do you not think that the injuries that we currently have, because there's going to be quite a number of those guys that were listed by Don earlier that won't be able to play. Some of those are starters. Some of those are even the second string. So in some cases, we'll be on our third string guy for a good portion of the game, and deeper in the roster, I might add. So do you not think that having that basically that little continuity from last season, do you not think that's going to play into in terms of how we do?
I think it will some, but I honestly still think that the defense will outshine the offense just a little. Not a lot. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout. I'm not saying like at the end of the day they're going to Mike Kliss and Benjamin Albright are going to be tweeting and reporting that the Broncos defense makes the Broncos offense look like crap or anything like that. I just think that at the end of the day I'm going to give a slight edge as far as who did it better to the defense over the offense. And that's and if I'm wrong, as always, I'll eat crow.
You know what? Not to go off subject here, but I just thought it was really funny when you started talking. The light behind you changed blue, and it looked like you timed it. It just—I'm sorry, that was amazing.
Don't ask me why it does this. So right now I've had like those those smart light bulbs in my house. I've had them for quite a while. And I usually keep this man cave like lit with orange and blue just for funsies because, hey, why not, right? Well, I recently realized I hadn't been doing that at all on the podcast. So I thought I'm going to give it a try and see what it looks like in the background with my room lit up like this. And I think it looks pretty dope.
It does. I'm just saying the timing of it was
But for whatever reason, if I lean towards the computer just a little, I've got my lighting here. If I lean towards the computer just a little, the camera alters a little for a second. I lean back, it'll change again. See, there it goes. And then it's going to darken again right here in a second. But I don't know why it does that. But yeah, I've noticed it too. I think, we got to start getting out of here. Right, guys?
Yeah.
But before we do, last question of the day, I think we should really field, and it's a fun one and by the way, KB82, bro, you always have the coolest questions. Like,
agreed.
People ask questions all the time, and it's great. We love them. Yours are unique and fun, and I love answering them. I love KB82 questions. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm going to start keeping a book of KB82 questions. If Chubb and Bowles were allowed to finish their fight, who wins?
I'm going to say Bowles, because Bowles is not just because he's a bit bigger than Chubb. I'm just basing that decision based on what we heard from our good friend Jedi Mario. Yeah, that while Bowles is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, those are usually the ones that are the most badass.
Look at Steve Atwater.
Yeah, so I'm just saying if they ever got into a real fight, Bradley Chubb isn't 100%.
It was a real fight, man. A real fight.
No, like fist, like street fight, basically.
Fist of Fury.
Yeah. So if it was like one of those, I would probably say Bowles, because even though Bowles does have an injury in his arm, I think the leg injury to Chubb would be a little bit more. It'll be harder for him to come back from should he get that re-injured.
That's fair. What do you think, Rich?
Bowles, and my answer is actually a little bit more direct. Bowles has openly basically stated that he was a bad boy or a bad kid kind of growing up, where he got into fights and he was like all aggressive. I have not heard anything like that about Chubb. So I think not only is Bowles bigger and I think stronger, but
that comes from Bowles getting bullied. He had that learning disability and he got bullied a lot.
Right. Yeah. But then he learned how to fight back, which is why he got in so much trouble. So the thing with Bowles is I actually think he's been in situations like that where he's actually been in physical fights. I have not heard anything about Bradley Chubb being in situations like that where he's actually being in physical fights and having that kind of a history. So I'm going to say Bowles, I think, wins that one.
I'm going to disagree with both of you. And not just because it makes the show more interesting, which it does, but because here's what I think. All right. So Garrett Bowles is big. He's strong. Chubb is more athletic and he's fast and he's strong too. He may not be as big and as strong as Bowles, but I'm going to say this, right? So me and my brother, I'm a fighter. I've already said this several times on this show. I'm a fighter. I'm scrappy. And I'm a power hitter, dude. I'm strong. I am very strong. My younger brother, Adam, is a black belt in Taekwondo. And we just for S's and G's decided to spar in the backyard one time after he got his black belt. I'd been boxing, he'd been playing, and all that, and he had been doing his Taekwondo. We went at it just for fun. Now, when I did land a punch on my brother, and I mean, we did not hold back. We were going all out. It was fun. Mm-hmm. It was a blast. When I did manage to land a punch on him, it was powerful and it hurt like hell to him. But he beat me in the end because he was faster, because he could land about 2 or 3 to my 1. I give it to Chubb because he's faster, he's more athletic. He'll be able to move around him a little bit more, and he'll be able to I'm just saying, that's why I'd give it to him. Because I hate this. I hate admitting, Adam, if you're watching, you were not to tell another soul. You beat me. He beat me because I couldn't keep up. He was faster. I hit him a lot, and he was hurting. Afterwards, he's sitting there like holding his ribs and his shoulder, going, "Dang, dude!" Oh, but I'm sitting there going, "Oh," because he was faster than I was. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving it to Chubb for athleticism and speed. So
hey, in some sports, speed kills or speed always wins. So I know it's true for It's true for boxing.
I mean, now granted, if Bulls just like, managed to get that one magic punch where just like, he just connects with that right on the button. Chubb goes down. Down. But he's got to land that magic punch.
Mm-hmm.
And Bulls is fast, and that would not be an easy punch to land.
Hey, sometimes it's not the size of the fight in the dog; it's the size of the fight.
Yeah, they kind of like that. Mundungus Bulls has a face that looks like it's been punched a lot, so I'm guessing Bulls.
I said that wrong. It's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog. Yeah, sorry, I just said that.
That's right. And since we're gonna go out, since we're going off on that, before we get off on some, Michael Vick tangent, let's let's just start to wrap this up. What do you guys say?
Hey, go for it.
What, too soon? Too soon?
No. I don't want.
Oh, snap.
I don't want a PETA violation of some sort where I get some like animal activist coming on here. What do you guys think?
Monster.
I had to. I'm sorry, you said dog fight, and I immediately was like, all right, Michael Vick, let's do this.
Right.
That was fun. That was fun. All right, let's roll it back, Rich.
All right.
Oh,
I agree. Well, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. I want to thank everyone for coming in. Johnny, let's settle down.
I'm sorry.
We want to thank you all for coming in, joining in the chat, participating. That is fantastic. You can go ahead and slap that like button for us, the thumbs up, and subscribe. More importantly, if you can share this to all of your friends and get more of us in Broncos country involved, we would greatly appreciate it. As a reminder, as you heard earlier in the pod, we are making some changes here, and those changes are going to be spectacular. Stay tuned, get those updates, pay attention on Twitter, and make sure you have all of your friends subscribed so they can get those updates too. Coming up next on MHRT is going to be our flagship podcast with Mundungus, Glenn, Mr. Boggins, and a 6'10" at 7654. That's on Thursday. And on Sunday, we have Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue with Johnny and Isaiah, a.k.a. Pookie Night.
Pookie Night.
That's right. And you can see them at 6543. You can figure out what time zones those are. We love all of you out there in Broncos country, and we will see you next Tuesday. Mile Hack Live coming up next. You ready to finish it out?
Lead us up, Johnny.
Get those arms out, boys. Get them out. You do it with us, Broncos country. Are you guys ready for it?
Let's rock.
Mile High Five! Woo! Yes! That was the best one we've had on this show.